justice, equality, human rights, accountability, transparency, ethical behavior, respect, rule of law. In the law, Mumateka, right now with Joan Mulunji.
Well, I am so excited about today. A very good evening, good morning, good afternoon, from wherever you are. You are welcome, my online family. I am excited, just like you can see, it is the first one of its own kind on the internet of Uganda. You're welcome. Subscribe, like, and it's exciting to bring matters of the law to your desk or where you are in your house, in your apartment. Law, you know, we all cannot go in class to study law, but if we have our learned people in the house and they're ready to bring the matters or the sense, the knowledge here with us, why not? Today, I introduce to you our new show, or I have always called it a new baby on block. In the law, Mumateka. In brackets, we shall have it in Mumateka because we shall be mixing the languages, Luganda and English, to have it in a better version for you and me to understand. So I hope that you're going to like it, subscribe, and yes, you're most welcome. My name is Joan, and yes, we are on in the law, Mumateka. In the house, I am with my most wonderful guest. He is a magistrate. Yeah. It's a lot that he knows, he has earned in the industry, and we are going to have him introduce himself. You're most welcome, Timothy.
Thank you, Joan. Good evening, viewers. My name is Timothy Lumunye. I'm a magistrate, grade 1. I sit at Mengo Court, but to be specific, Natete Lubaga Court, which is under Mengo. The court has both civil and criminal jurisdiction. I am happy to be here.
You're welcome. Thank you. Are you... Anyway, we are having him here today. We are going to talk about a lot, but most especially, we are going to specifically hint on the will issues. Apparently, we've been having issues in our country, Uganda, about the will issues with the likes of the Muzatas and BMK. But we're not going to point out on only those ones. It's a lot to talk about the will. I hope that you enjoy the show. So, Timothy.
Yes, Joan.
You allow me to call you Timothy because you're a friend.
Please, feel free. It's a sensitization program.
Okay.
It's a sensitization program. Yes.
Yeah. It's a lot to talk about the will, but since we have a whole episode of it, I would like us to break it down, pola. So there is something I had to read down, but bring it down to a layman's understanding. We shall start with succession law. What is it in particular? Someone would love to know, what is succession law?
Thank you very much, Joan. The law that governs succession in Uganda is the Succession Act.
Okay.
As it is now. There was an attempt by Parliament last year to amend the current Succession Act. Actually, the bill was passed by the Parliament and sent to the President for his consent. But the President did not sign the bill that was passed. So it means that currently, as we talk, we still have the old Succession Act. But going back to your question, when a person talks about succession,
they would love to know
what should come. Yes, what should come into their mind. In simple terms, the law of succession is about the wishes of a person on how they wish to deal with their property after they pass on. Okay? Wishes of a person on how they wish to deal with their property after they pass on. In a simpler term, that's how I would define it. Mu lulimi Oluganda, omuntu bw'ayogera ku amateeka agafuga ebyobusika kiba kitegeeza nti ekirina okujjira mu bwongo nti biki bye wandibadde oyagala okulaba oba bikolebwe nga bikwatagana ku by'obugagga byo by'oboolese singa obanga okoze eki.
So in simple terms, succession ya omuntu okuba nga awandiise eddaame n'atawandiise eddaame.
Well, bw'oyogera ku succession oyinza okyogera bw'otyo naye niyinza okugamba nti bw'oyogera ku succession kiba kya mirundi ebiri.
Okay.
Oyinza okwogera ku succession awali ng'omuntu awandiise eddaame which in English we call testate succession, if a person dies leaving behind a valid will. Or you could also talk about what we call intestate succession, where a person dies without leaving a will. In simpler terms, a person can die in two ways, okay? A person can die leaving behind a will, which we call testate succession, or a person can die without a will, which we call intestate succession. Mu lulimi Oluganda oyinza ogamba omuntu mu mateeka ayinza okufa emirundi ebiri. Asobola okufa ng'awandiise eddaame oba asobola okufa nga tawandiise ddaame.
So Timothy, as someone would love to know, what are the different types of inheritance?
What are the different types of wills?
Yes,
Do you mean that?
Yes.
We have two types of wills. Okay, we have the ordinary wills. The ordinary wills is a normal will, which me and you, when we start working, we should be having wills. The moment you start working like this, you should be having a will. Then we also have what we call...
The moment you start working?
Yes.
What age is that?
Any age. A moment you start earning.
How about, how do you present that to a person who has fear for this? Because honestly, we shall not pretend about this. You will find someone, they have this fear of, okay, it's threatening. I, for one, I've never thought of taking on such a bold idea of I have to sit down and write it. And I actually thought, I personally thought that maybe when you're aging and then but take for example, some people die even before that age. So how do people that have phobia for such a kind, how do they handle it?
Well, fear is okay. Okay, it's normal. It's normal. I thank God that He left that to Himself, because if everyone had a death mark on when you are going to die, probably
tomorrow at this time I'm going to die.
Yes, probably would be so lazy. Probably would be living in fear. But it's okay to fear. It's human. But I'll give you an example.
You are giving us the two types of the will.
Yes, but before we go to that, I'll give you an example. My mom wrote her first will in 1985.
How old was she?
She had just started, actually she was 27. From Law Development Center, I think she had just gotten married then. She wrote her first will in 1987. Now, currently as I talk, she's about 67, 68 years.
So she keeps adding on.
She keeps adding on. She keeps adding on. She wrote her first will when she had only one busuti. You know busuti? Busuti is, I think, a traditional dress for Baganda. So she wrote when she had only one busuti.
By the way, someone would think.
Yes.
You said she wrote it when she was 27.
Yes.
Probably she didn't have a lot.
She didn't have a lot.
Physically.
Yes.
So abantu ambalowooza nti when ndiwakuwandiika eddaame lino, I have to have maybe a piece of land, something in place. What would you say about that?
No, a will, as we shall later see, it's not necessarily about property. Property seems to be the main deal when it comes to writing a will, but later we shall discover that actually it's not only about property, but it's any other thing that this person, the deceased, would have wished to happen after the person. Now, going back to your question, We have two types of wills, okay? We have the ordinary wills, okay? Ordinary wills, which any Ugandan should write if they're above the age of 18.
Okay.
And we have what we also call privileged wills. These ones are a bit specific. They only apply to main armed forces, okay? Armed forces where the soldiers fear that they might die.
Okay.
Okay, fear that they might die. So
In the
they are
field,
privileged
on
in the
ground.
field. Like for example, if you have someone fighting in Somalia, okay, and they realize that they have not made a will, but they would want to have their wishes written down. So the privileged wills only apply to a specific type of persons, but the ordinary wills apply to everyone. Okay, it doesn't mean that the armed persons cannot make the privileged wills. They are called privileged wills because they can apply to them to a specific time. Okay, when they are in that expectation that they might die in the field.
Okay, according to law,
Yes.
because now here we want to know much about the legal matters. Who do you think is in position to make a will?
Well, thank you very much for that question. Any person above the age of 18, okay, man or woman, wills are not about men only, okay, because we live in a patriarchal
They tell us
society.
they are the breadwinners, so probably
Yes.
they're heading this thing of writing the will and so on. Anyway, go
No,
ahead.
no.
Suggest.
It's a man or woman who is above the age of 18 and is of sound mind.
Now,
Yes.
you said man or woman. Take for example, you are married with your wife.
Yes.
Can you be under the same roof with your wife? Ng'alina eddaame erirye, na naawe olina eriryo.
Yes. A marriage.
But you're married.
Yes.
Okay.
Because a will is individual. Okay? When Joan Mulungi writes a will, she writes it as Joan Mulungi. When Timothy Lumunye writes a will, he writes it as Timothy Lumunye.
But that sounds like a confusing state. You
It's
get
not.
what I'm talking about? Or
Why?
you can all write different information,
Yes.
totally different.
Yes, it goes back to the.
Olumutaddemu, but you're not involved anywhere mu bintu bye. Doesn't it cause confusion and all that?
Not necessarily. It goes back to the definition of a will. Okay? A will. These are wishes. Okay? Wishes of the person making a will. Okay? You can be married, Joan Mulungi, Mrs. X, but that does not stop you from having individual property. Okay? Individual property, even when you are married, you can own individual property.
Okay.
Okay? You can own
Okay,
individual property.
I don't. Why am I laughing?
Yes.
I'm a kind of a born again where they tell you, you know what, that you shall become one,
Yes.
and so on and so that.
Yes.
So when you say someone can have their own property even if they are married, individual property,
Yes.
isn't that misleading?
No, it's not misleading. It's actually the position of the law. Okay? It's the position of the law. In law, we have what we call matrimonial property. Okay? Matrimonial property. Matrimonial property is owned by both the husband and the wife.
Okay.
But nothing stops the husband or the wife to own individual property. That's also another subject on what constitutes individual property, what amounts to matrimonial property. That's also a lengthy discussion. But for now, we can take it that yes, a man or woman can own individual property even in marriage.
But is it really so important
Yes.
for someone to write a will? Because I can see, me personally, I can think, I can maybe sit down and think, but do I really need to write a will?
Yes.
What is the intention of what great importance is it like for someone to come and say, you know what, I just need to put this down?
Yes, there are so many advantages, okay? There are so many advantages as to why every person, okay, earning a living okay, and is above the age of 18 and is of sound mind should make a will. One, you get to appoint what we call an executor, okay, a person who is going to implement your wishes that you've written down in a will after death.
Okay.
If you do not write a will, you will not have an opportunity to appoint that person or the executor.
Okay.
Okay? Omuntu agenda okuteeka mu nkola eddaame lyo otadde mu nkola. So nga bw'obanga ofudde nga towandiise eddaame, omuntu oyo bamukulondera bulondezi.
But tewaliwo possibility nti basobola okyusiba because either way you're gone and maybe someone you've selected is not going to even help. So we sit as a family and plan and we say, you know what, I think Muzei wasn't in his sober mind. We have to get someone who is going to be in the right position to handle this. Because isn't there that room of adjustment just in case you think there is a need?
No, once it is proved that this person was of age, and we're talking of 18 years, he was of sound mind at the time the will was made, okay, and the will has been or was made in accordance with the provisions of the law, which we shall look at, okay, in our subsequent discussions, then you cannot challenge that will. You cannot challenge that will.
There is a scenario where someone who had to write a will, probably they wrote it down for them.
Yes.
Because abamu tebalaba, abamu tebawulira.
Yes.
I know there is provision. I think there is provision of the sign language stuff. But even some guys are so old to the extent of they cannot handle a pen to do a signature. So how sure can you be that this person is actually going to like wabanga nga agikoze mukadde nnyo nga tali njagala kwesa ekigambo lack of a better word to use nga tali in their sober, I don't want to say in their sober minds like an abuse, but it's not.
No, you see, if you are 18 years and above and you have sound mind, you can make a will. But that does not mean that if you are deaf, if you are dumb, you cannot make a will. You can still make a will, even when you are deaf, even when you are dumb. Chigala ne muzibe basobola okukola eddaame kubanga tulina ababakyusiza ba interpreters basobola okukola eddaame. So tutunuulidde omuntu omukyala oba omwami ng'aweza emyaka 18 ng'ategeera bulungi, okay, omuntu kigala asobola okukola eddaame. Dam yaluwa yatawulira. Then deaf kale kigala atawulira atalaba, okay, atalaba kasita babeera nga baweza emyaka 18 ate nga bategeera bulungi. N'omukyala ali mu bufumbo naye asobola okukola ki? Naye asobola okukola eddaame.
There is a scenario of, for example, waliwo ekika ky'abantu ng'agwa eddalo n'amala n'addamu n'atereera. Sometimes they're not in their sober state.
Yes.
How can you know that this very time we agenda olikolera yali ategeera bulungi, yali sober enough to make a will?
Yes, of course there are people who suffer from what we call temporary insanity. Okay? Temporary insanity. Today is on, tomorrow is off. Okay? Yes. But if it can be proved in court that at the time that person wrote the will, okay, was in his sound state of mind.
How do you approve that?
Of course, it's a question of evidence. You see, when you go to court, it's about evidence. So you will need probably doctors, okay, who have been where that person has been going for medication, to inform court, okay, of those lapses. Okay, it will be the doctors and the people surrounding him to come and prove to court that yes, it is true that this person has temporary insanity, but at the time that will was made, the person was actually of sound mind.
So they can redo it.
They can do the time when they are of sound mind. So if they do it when they're of sound mind, and then later they become of unsound mind, then the will stand, as long as at the time it was made, they were of sound mind. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does, but
Yes.
It's a bit confusing because if the same person will maybe come up and say, you know what, the together, maybe when I think it's confusing.
Remember, we are talking when the issue comes up as to whether the will is valid or not, this person has passed on.
Okay.
You get?
Okay.
The person has already passed on. So the person who will be saying that will probably be the relatives or those who did not benefit from the will. Because I don't believe, Joan, if you are a beneficiary of such a will and you realize that actually the will that is before you, you are a beneficiary, you would say that no, that will actually, at the time he made it, he was not of sound mind.
Maybe I may not be selfish, and I probably know. I think he wasn't sober enough to do this.
Well, you are among the very few Ugandans who would say that.
Yeah,
Yes.
and even the guys that are watching, because
Yes.
there is a state, there is a family I know. Still, they were arguing about the land issues and so on. But so unfortunately, the deceased. Aina abana be biological children, but they come in the will. Naye n'atabawa shares, and even he had to come up and give reasons, and he was like, you know what, oh no yanje melawa nonawali, he refused to do this and that for me, and this is why I have not given him any share of my property. But he did not even deny that Robasivana Bangi or something. But later on it caused confusion, and Bonga Bana, they had to sit down and they had to say, you know what, okay, Muzei wrote this, I think he was pissed, angry and all that. How about if we sit down as siblings and we also share on the little that we were given with our siblings? How is that? How is it to be done?
Well, the position of the law is that if a person has written their will, that will should be respected. Okay?
But
the wishes.
there is room for adjustment.
Yes, the wishes of the deceased in the will should be respected. However, to every general rule, there are always what? Exceptions. Okay? There are always exceptions. So the question should be, who are those people that can challenge a will if they were left out as beneficiaries?
I personally believe
Yes.
Some people, of course we don't have a big percentage of them, to the least extent. Omuntu ajja kuvaayo agambe okay, awandiise eddamu amala agambe nze njagala banziike muno. Ng'ekifo ky'agambye, for example, let me use an example of banziike wakati wa luguudo lwa Jinja Road. It's in the will. You see, it's complicated. Like you can also see, it's complicated. How do you handle such cases?
Well, yes,
because there are some things that are really weird.
Yes. Before I answer that, I wanted to respond to your first question that you raised. If a wife or a child, giving the example that you gave me, if they are left out in the will, do the courts go ahead and just implement, or
they are recognized, but actually on the shares?
Yes, they are not there. Yes. So now the position of the law is that if a spouse is left out as one of the beneficiaries, that spouse can challenge or can contest the will. Okay. The other category are children, okay? Children below the age of 18.
Who is a spouse?
A spouse is a person who is legally married or who was legally married.
That is the point that I wanted.
Yes.
Because actually,
Yes.
we have, I have a friend, she actually told me, Joan Zemazambu Fumbo with my husband, we are now 35 years. She's an old lady, so I had to ask her, but you're not married.
Yes.
I am married, we even have like 7 kids. I'm like, wait, but you're not married. Why was I insisting on that? Because I knew, but because these things of, we moved in and we are not well, the guy says, be patient and all that. But before they know it, it's 35 down the road. So I had to question her, don't you think you're risking? So abantu bwe batyo abetwalira mu kkowe eryo abalowooza nti that maybe the more you live with a person you're already married to them indirectly. What is it that you can tell them as you proceed with what you were explaining?
Of course, you in the law, a married man or a married woman is one that is married in accordance with one of the laws governing marriages in Uganda. Okay? So you must ensure that you are, before you consider yourself as a married man or a married woman, olina okubeera nga wawasa oba wafumbirwa mu nkola mu mateeka agafuga ebyobufumbo agafuga ensi Uganda.
Kati ate oli wagamba, for me my husband had to come and kwanjula, and even the guy is saying, yeah, mukyala wange yanyanjula, and that is all.
Kakati obufumbo bwe tulina mu Uganda, maybe okukiwumba nti obufumbo bwe tulina mu Uganda tulina customary marriage, Abaganda kwe bayita okwanjula oba okwanjulwa kubanga omukyala yayanjula. Tulina church marriage, okugenda mu kanisa oba kereziya ne bakugatta. Tulina Islamic marriage, okola nika mu Islam. Tulina Hindu naye mwebali muno era neteeka tuliina muno. Tulina Hindu marriage. So kino kiba kitegeeza nti obanga tebakwanjula oba tewayanjula mu nnono ez'omukyala, obanga tewagenda mu kanisa kukuba mpeta oba kuba mukyala mpeta, obanga togenze mu muzikiti, then ne bw'obeera n'abaana ne bw'obeera ng'omaze
obalibwanga
atali mufumbo. Era bw'oba ng'olekebwa wabweru mu kiraamo, bwe tetukubala nga spouse mu mateeka, naye linda kukati naye singa oyiba n'abaana abatanaweza myaka 18 naye nga gwe toli mufumbo mu mateeka, abaana abo ne balekebwa wabweru w'eddaame, then abaana abasobola okugenda mu kooti ne bachallenginga ki eddaame asaba nga tebanaweza myaka 18. N'ekirala, omuntu asembayo asobola okuchallenginga eddaame bw'aba nga alekeddwa wabweru are what we call dependent relatives.
Okay.
People who were solely surviving on the deceased. Nti
kiba nakyo mbuwandiike oba just mbeera nkimanyi nti my husband was taking care of this one and this one and this one.
Yes, kasita obeera nga obulamu bw'omuntu oyo bubadde bubeerawo olw'obulamu bw'omuntu oyo afudde, then you become a dependent.
Okay.
Oyinza okugamba nti anko wange yabadde amperera school fees, yabadde angulira shopping, mbadde mbeera waabwe, naye ate bwe bakoze eddaame tebakoze eki tebantadde. For you now, you are a dependent because you are solely depending, or you are solely depending on the deceased. The common categories are parents, mother, father, probably someone who is sickly, grandmother, you know. Those are the three people. Any other person left out of the will cannot contest. Okay? Cannot contest.
Ate abantu abalina orphanages. For example, we have the likes of Bishop Mugera, balina orphanage. So kati abo abaana baba babatwala okuba nga abaana baabwe. I'm talking about the pastoral perspective. Nti kati wasanga nga orphanage erimu abaana abatabalika nga bangi honestly. Kati omuntu bw'ato bw'afa, how can you really divide the attention, the things that oluusi byalese tebiri in their reach? Yes, abadde abalabirira bonna ati afudde. Tebimala kubeera nga bisustaininga abaana baneeno paka weyandiyagadde obatuusa.
Ekyo kyanjawulo, because you see those orphanages, you'll find that they are legal entities. They are entities recognized at law. Kati muziyita orphanage, naye ojja sanga nga NGO, oyinza sanga nga company. Kakati bw'ebeera nga company, mu mateeka tulina kye tugamba nti eba yanjawulo n'abantu abagiddukanya oba abagitandika.
It's one of
separate, yes, kyetengeredde kyokka, yeerabirira yokka. So ogamba nti Pastor Mugirwa yabadde alabirira abaana abo, nti era bw'abanga afudde ebintu bye byonna bigabanyizibwemu ku ba orphans babitwale.
Biological children.
Yes, it may not be the correct legal position. Kubanga ojasanga nga orphanage, it's another legal entity, kati naye eyina ate amateeka agagikola ki agakifuga. So Pastor Mugirwa abeera n'ebibye nga ye as an individual.
Weba teri legal entity. Ngoli, for example, let me tell you, I have grown up in a family of pastors. My parents, both of them are pastors. Sometimes baleeta abaana nga tebakitaminze nga orphanage, but it's literally one. Ne babafunira kale, let me use the word home, a separate home for their just private issues. Naye nga teri registered, naye nga abaana bali eyo balinga abaana 30 balabirirwa, bali under his, buli omu ng'akimanyi nti abo muzeeyi abadde abalabirira ebintu ebifaanana bwebiti. Teddy registered. Yes, because I've seen very many examples. There is also a pastor I cannot mention here. Abakozesa batuse n'okufumbirwa and all that. Naye everything that he was doing for them. Ng'akitwalanga ddala abaana be ddala.
Of course, that will be.
When it's not an NGO.
When it's not an NGO, when it's not a company.
It's like adoption.
Yes, right. It would be a once in a while thing. For us, when you're talking about people who can benefit, you are not thinking in terms of orphans or who were brought home, who have been solely been depending on this person who has died. The example that you're giving is an isolated one. Okay, for me, I'm looking at the bigger picture of a person, this person, whom you know really, that has been depending on me, and most times those are our relatives. They are our nephews, they are our nieces, they are our cousins. So those are what I would term as dependent. But this other help of simply going and volunteering, and you're saying, I have this structure, these people can stay there. It may not be the best example to apply to this kind of...
So in simple terms, you're saying, you have to sit as a mature person and analyze you. Pick out people that are really important. We are not saying these ones are not important. Okay, the first cream, right?
It would be anyone that every person knows that
Oh, yeah,
this
but
person,
they're surviving because of
yes,
him.
precisely.
Okay.
You now get it. This person is their child. Their spiritual child may not be the biological child, but their spiritual child. Surely everyone knows that they should, if this person has property, this girl or this boy should continue with their education. Now, those are the ones that we are looking at when we talk about dependent relatives.
Okay, thank you so much, Timothy. That has been our first episode for you. We shall be bringing him back in the second episode. Keep waiting.
Justice, equality, human rights, accountability, transparency, ethical behavior, respect, rule of law. No one is above the law. In the law, Mumateka. Don't miss the next episode.